What's up everyone, Mace the Omnilution here, and this is just another filler video. And you know what I got? Remember one of these? It's a Gameboy Color I bought from a pawn shop in Kelowna. I'm not gonna say how much it was because, well, if I do, people will probably laugh at me. But I've actually bought this thing without any games on it. I mean, there was Donkey Kong Land for the original Game Boy, which I sadly didn't bought yet. And basically a friend of mine was originally going to give me his Game Boy Color games, but well, he didn't seem to show up. So I actually bought myself a couple ones. You see this? It's a package, complete with bubble wrap. I'm gonna open this. So if you're expecting... So if you're really expecting games such as Pokemon Gold and Silver, Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, Link's Awakening DX, or any type of the obvious games, well, sadly there's none of that here. I mean, I don't choose the obvious. This, I've actually bought like around, what is it, 20 bucks I believe? 20, 15? See here, I got the seat. AAA battery. Yeah, thanks. Oh. AAA battery. This is perfect dark for the Game Boy Color. It's pretty underrated, but also Cruis'n Exotica. So about that part I said about, you probably laugh at me if I said it how much I bought this thing. Well, guess what? Downside of this atomic purple Game Boy Color I bought for, I'm gonna say this, 40 bucks. You hear that? Well, let me try that again. This is at full volume. And yes, the speakers were actually broken when I actually bought this thing. But I do love the aesthetics of turning on and off of this thing. It's really exhilarating. But chances are I got Cruis'n Exotica in here. But I'm really willing my chance that this will work. And yes, it does. Oh shit. And people say that you really need a backlight, but no. You don't need a backlight, you pussies. So let's play this via emulation. So this is Cruis'n Exotica. This is a game by, well, published by Midway, developed by Crawfish Interactive in the year 2000. This is a port of the 1999 game Cruis'n Exotica, which is a sequel to Cruis'n USA, also known as one of the most, well, mediocre racing games you ever played. It's basically just, well, a scaled down version of anything else to be exact. Even though I'm speaking verbal garbage right now, but you have several cars to choose from the likes of Switchblade, Vapor, Mach 4, etc. But what I believe is that you can actually drive a forklift or something. Yeah, I think I heard about that in, well, Cruis'n Exotica, but you drive various vehicles upon different tracks in a style of, well, like, probably Rad Racer, I believe. Rad Racer, Outrun, those, basically 2D, 3D video games, racing games, to be exact. But the game itself, well, honestly, the graphics looks quite impressive. To be honest, the graphics look quite impressive on a Game Boy Color standards. But the gameplay itself, however, well, it seems a little bit too difficult. Yeah, honestly. So enjoy this gameplay footage right here. And basically how much I suck at it. Now enjoy. Up next, this is Perfect Dark on Game Boy Color. This is a prequel to the Nintendo 64 game back in 2000. Well, actually, this game was released shortly after Perfect Dark, so yeah. This is published and developed by Rare themselves, unlike the Cruis'n Exotica one. And this game, however, is pretty good. The sound design is pretty great. The soundtrack doesn't sound like shit, and the gameplay itself has some pretty fluid animation. And this game is supposed to play like similar to Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel, which is also on the Game Boy Color. But what this game actually has is the rumble feature on it, which has some vibrations coming out of the cartridge, which is not really that common for Game Boy standards. I mean, I've actually mentioned the Drill Dozer actually had a similar function with the rumble and stuff. But there were actually several Game Boy games, including the Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, actually has the rumble pack. But only few actually do support the... few actually had the thing. What if it comes down with a solar thing, like the one from Boxeye? Well, I have no idea what I'm gonna say about that next. I mean, I got this Game Boy cartridge with me. The Game Boy Advance, which is actually, well, more like a prop for the Boxeye segment. You probably watched it, you probably don't, but for those who haven't watched it, I've actually, technically taped the Game Boy cartridge with a sticky note saying Boxeye Django Unchained, because the main protagonist is named Django, so they're throwing in a reference to a Tarantino film, and taped it right behind a PS Vita, emulating the entire game. And yeah. Anyways, nothing else to say here. Despite going off topic, this game is, well, better than Cruis'n Exotica, to be honest. This is where I end things. I just want to give you an introduction to my new Game Boy Color and a couple of its games. Yeah, to be honest, I never had Pokemon on my previous Game Boys and on the DSi XL, but yeah. Anyways, I'll see you later. Bye.